When I asked what was wrong, she said she had a bit of a headache and I decided not to press. Clad in wellies and waterproof coats, we arrived at the festival in a downpour. Our feet were sucked into claggy, viscous mud straight away, and we were sweating inside our jackets. I took the decision that the best way to fight off the vagaries of the weather was to drink as much as possible. By late afternoon, I didn't mind the mud. And finally, at 6, the sun came out. We'd seen a weird kind of emo rock band and a folk punk duo I like, plus some comedy in one of the tents. The main event was still to come. I made my way back to Anya with 2 more wobbly pints of cider in my hands that I'd had to queue painfully long for. Her head was turned away from me, and as I reached her and said, "Hey," she seemed to startle. "You're shaking," I said, noticing her hand as she took the plastic cup from me. "Are you cold?" She gulped a long mouthful. Her eyes, when they met mine, were oddly bright. She seemed to be crackling with energy in a way that happened sometimes. It was very sexy. "It's nothing," she said, and turned to look at the stage. This was clearly a lie. "Hey," I said again, placing my hand on her slim arm, which was covered in goosebumps. "Did something happen?" She shook her head vigorously. "Oh, people are dickheads, that's all. Some bloke knocked into me and wasn't very sorry." "Where is he?" I said, turning to look at the thickening crowd. "Gone," she said, and gave me a wonderful smile that seemed to come from nowhere. "Let's forget it, okay?" "Okay, if you're sure." I took a swig of my pint. I allowed myself to relax and soak up the buzz of the crowd. Soft evening light bathed us. The nearest group of people included a small girl whose face was painted like Spider-Man, and a man in shorts with an Oasis t-shirt that seemed to have come from younger, slimmer times, straining over his belly. He was bellowing about seeing Oasis at Glasgow to a small middle-aged woman with a long-suffering expression. Anya took a sip of her pint and did a little turn to survey the crowd. She was wearing what she called her festival dress, a long, hippie-ish affair with thin straps and a brown hem of mud, her waterproof coat tied around her waist. I didn't resist the urge to kiss her freckled shoulder, and she gave me a quick, warm smile. There was a palpable thrum of excited energy in the crowd. The thing we'd all been waiting for was happening any moment now. I heard someone call my name and turned to see Zoe squeezing her way towards us through the knots of people, grinning. Zoe was almost 6 feet tall with her afro, and, even though I'd repeatedly told Anya that I hadn't really noticed, you'd have to be insane not to recognise that she was kind of gorgeous. She wore thick-framed glasses that would have made anyone else look like Morrissey on a bad day, but highlighted her big, brown eyes, and she always had on brightly coloured lipstick. She could be stern when needed, but the kids adored her. She'd even won over some of the racist old parents round here. The fact that she stood out at all was one of the downsides of living in this small seaside town. I was born and raised in the crowded, multicultural heart of London, and, well, it was an adjustment. I'd been asked more than once here, with a note of suspicion, if I was an Arab because of my dark colouring and beard. This place had its downsides, which sometimes made me want to run screaming back to the city, but it was also beautiful, cheap enough, and therefore home. Zoe was my best friend at work, and by default probably in the town, but I sensed a tightening in Anya's expression whenever her name came up, so I tried not to talk about her too much. That Anya could ever be a bit territorial and jealous was frankly something I still found flattering. Anyway, Zoe was looking great at the festival in some sort of orange catsuit thing, with a thick yellow scarf around the front of her hair. She pulled me into a hug, and I could sense Anya tensing next to me. "Everything okay?" Zoe said, turning to Anya. She gave her an odd sort of look, but I didn't think anything of it then. Anya's smile was tight. "Yeah, brilliant," she said. "And we're so grateful for the tickets, aren't we, Elle?" But she reached for my fingers at the same time, and it felt like she was making a point. Zoe didn't seem to notice anyway. She began to tell me a story about one of the mothers saying her son didn't have any time to do an after-school club anymore because one of his tutors was changing days. "One of them," she said now. "He's 10 years old." Our school didn't have too many pushy parents, but a slow gentrification process was happening in the town, which meant a new demographic of parent,